And so here we are, we're going to be getting into our interview with Kawennáhere Devery. For those of you who are watching the show and are from Kawennheres, I'm sure that she's a mainstay in our lives here in the community, but for those of you who don't know and who are watching from around the world, especially nowadays that we've hit the net, but we're going to jump into it because it's a really big interview today. There was a big announcement made this week where she was nominated for a Canadian Screen Award. So tell us how that came about and what is it like for people who are watching that necessarily don't know what that is.
Well, a Canadian Screen Award is, it's basically, it used to be called the Genies, and it's the Genies and the Geminis that are combined. And it's essentially the Canadian Academy Awards.
Mm-hmm.
And so how this all came about was I filmed Rhymes for Young Girls last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wasn't expecting anything to come out of it. It was an amazing opportunity, and it was the first time I ever played a lead role in a production before. And since then, there's just been all kinds of positive feedback, and so many critics really loved it. We've been getting really great responses, and then just recently, actually Monday, I found out that I've been nominated for this award.
Mm-hmm.
And how this all came about was a few days ago on Facebook, actually, the director of the awards, his name is Louis Calabro, he messaged me and he invited me out to this nominee press conference. And I was like, is this hinting that I'm nominated? And they can't tell you, right? Because they can't tell anybody until press conference.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, well, I'm not based out of Toronto, but I can make it to there if it's necessary. Like, do you think it would be good for me to go? And he's like, yes, I think it would be good for you to go. So I was like, I swear to God, if I'm not nominated, I'm going to be so mad.
Why you have me here?
So
yeah.
I ended up going out, and it turns out I was nominated, and my heart was beating a million miles an hour, and I was so nervous and excited, and like I said, I've been nominated. And
was it shocking, or were you kind of, maybe expecting it at that point?
Well, because it was kind of hinted towards me, I was kind of more inclined to thinking that I was going to be nominated, but when he told me, I was like, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
it's such a prestigious nomination, and
Mm-hmm.
just to have that, especially for my first film, not necessarily my first film, but my first time being a lead in something, and
Mm-hmm.
and now it's my first nomination. It's great, and I'm so excited for March 9th.
I'm sure that it's a huge accomplishment, so congratulations. But what is the reaction that you've been getting, since the nomination, and how have things been going since then?
My Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email, it's all been blowing up. And I was saying to you before, it was like on my way back from Toronto, I would check my email, and within 5 minutes I'd have like 8 emails. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to get to respond to everything. But it's been great. I've seen so much support from the community. Like, I just went on the K103 this morning just for a quick shout out, and then I'm going to be on the Noon Hour talk show tomorrow at noon. I'm doing this interview, and then I've also interviewed with the Eastern Door and with Yurdiwaze. So there's been so much support from the community, and everybody wants to know about it and are really excited for me, and it makes me happy to see how much support I do have from everybody here.
And also, of course, it is a big accomplishment, and it's nice to see your fellow community members rally around you, but this is not your not to say that it's not your biggest accomplishment. Let's just get into the film that you have been nominated for. The director is Jeff Barnaby, who I've known and worked with before, and great film. Could you tell us a little bit about what it is and what's it about, and how did you get involved in that film?
Well, that's a few questions in one, but I guess firstly I'll give you the synopsis of the film. Is that it takes place in 1976 on this fictional Mi'kmaq reserve, and there's my character, 15-year-old Ayla, and she's had a really hard life, and she's kind of been reluctantly forced into her family's drug trade, and she's tired of this sadistic Indian agent ruling her reserve with an iron fist and just basically treating everybody horribly. And so she gets together with her friends and she formulates a plan to to steal the money back that was stolen from her family. And then at the same time, she also plots to get revenge. And so she breaks into the residential school, she steals back the money, and she kicks ass.
All in a nutshell.
Yeah, and so it's got these different elements, kind of like a Tarantino-esque kind of notion where you go back into history and you rewrite it, and essentially the people who've been oppressed or discriminated against come on top. And like, the reason why I use Tarantino as an example is because if you look at Inglourious Bastards, you see Hitler gets killed or by a Jew, and in Django Unchained, then you see the slave coming on top and rebelling against his colonizer. So just all of these different things, it's really interesting, and it's a really powerful film and a powerful message that we wanted to shock people with. We wanted them to be like, oh my God, because so many Canadians and North Americans don't even have any idea what happened in their own country's history, and with like, they don't even know what residential schools are. So it's not that also goes without saying, it's not a sob story either. It's just basically a story of survival. Anyways,
at the beginning of the, when you were able to get involved in that, did you ever think that it was going to get this big?
No, I mean, I started out and I knew it was an amazing accomplishment. There aren't many actors that get to be a lead in a production or get to play a character as strong as Ayla, as the character that I got to play. And for it to be a First Nations woman too, who's so strong, it was a difficult role to play, but it was the best acting learning experience I've ever had in my life. And just how you asked me before how I got involved with it was Renee Haynes, who's like the casting director for Native films, like she cast Twilight and stuff like that. But she put out a nation or international search across the States and Canada for an open casting call for people to send in their tapes auditioning for it. And I just did it on a whim. I heard of it through my agent and through Facebook, and so I was like, okay, I might as well try it out. I wasn't thinking anything of it, and turns out that I was put on the short list, and it was kind of funny because they did an international search for this character or for this actor, and I ended up being in the same community that they were filming in the first place.
I know, that's crazy. Did you know Jeff beforehand?
No, I didn't know him, and I didn't even realize that he was living in the community before, and his mom lives here, so it's just small world, and we seem to cross paths, like not even cross each other's paths until we did find each other, but it was great.
I mean, you're right, it's a small world, and I think that definitely the film, I heard, is going to be viewed in theaters now at this point, because it started out on the festival circuit, and now it's making its way into theaters. It's
on January 31st that we're going to have a theatrical release, and that's going to be across Canada. I'm not exactly sure which theater or what times yet in Montreal, but it's going to be released here for sure. Cineplex picked it up.
That's amazing. So how does that make you feel?
It's crazy because, that's been my dream forever. That's always what I wanted. And then when I was in high school, there was a lull for a few years because of the writer's strike and everything, and I wasn't booking any jobs. And I was just like, all right, it's not a reliable career choice, so I ended up going to school for something else. I went to John Abbott College for Youth and Adult Correctional Intervention, which I just graduated from. But,
I heard.
But just because, it didn't seem like I could make a career out of it. It was always my dream, but I was just like, you're just dreaming. It's not realistic. But then, lo and behold, it ended up working out for me. So I couldn't be more thankful, and really, I really owe everything that's happening to me now, with the nominations and the film winning awards, and even signing with my managers who are in the States. They're called Circle of Confusion. None of that would have happened if it weren't for Jeff Barnaby, who was rooting for me to get this character.
I mean, I think that, when you look at all you've done, you started in acting from a young age. And how many years has it been, would you say?
My first production ever was The Wizard of Oz at the Turtle Island Theatre Company, and I played the little ballerina Munchkin. But I've had an interest in performing even before that. But it's been about 10 years since I signed with my agent in Montreal, so it's been about 10 years for my film career. And I finally have something.
Well, I mean, you're right when they say sometimes that industry could be unreliable. It's hard. It's a hard industry to break into, you know. And I was thinking, I was like, well, I think that, you know, everyone has their own niche in a market, but I think even being Native American and finding a niche in this big market would be, you know, in itself, I would imagine would be, you know, something that was very challenging. Yes, no?
I don't know. I mean, for me, I haven't. It can be challenging, but at the same time, this was one of the first times that I even played my own ethnicity. Before I played like Italian, Afghan, I've played Hispanic, like everything under the sun, like every obscure ethnicity.
Yeah.
So I still can play these other roles, but this one was especially important to me because it included my own history and I drew inspiration from my life and my family's life and things like that. So it can be difficult, and there is an extreme lack of Native characters throughout the industry, but I think that's starting to change, because if you look at the Canadian Screen Awards right now, all the nominees, like there's Michelle Thrush from Blackstone, Sherry Maricle from Blackstone, who else is there? There's Jennifer Podemsky from Empire of Dirt, and for the, Inspire Awards. And then there's also A Tribe Called Red, and I know I'm missing a few people, but it seems like we're really making waves now, and that we're really starting to be heard and take over. So
well, I think we grew up, you know, in my era, not yours, but with, you know, the green guy. I can't remember his name. He was green though. He was a green. I can't remember his name. You know,
Gumby?
No. Tom Green, not Tom Green, but he was like one of the bigger actors. Him and Adam Beach, they were like in everything.
Oh, okay.
They were in like every movie. They were like the token Native, you know, guys that would play. And now you're seeing a lot more actors and actresses evolving and up and coming. So, you know, I think that's a really, you know, something to be really proud of. What do you think, or how do you feel things will go from here?
Well, it would be my hopes that I can like book a million jobs and, you know, just be a full-time actor and move to Hollywood and whatnot. No, but realistically speaking, I'm actually moving to New York next week, or in about 2 weeks, just so I could be closer to my managers. For the past year, I just wanted to make sure that I finished school, I finished the commitment that I started, and now that I'm going to be moving to New York, I actually get to go on the auditions and meet the people that I've been sending all of these self-tapes to. They've been having me do like almost, it could be as many as like 3 self-tapes a week, or as little as once every 2 weeks or something. But
and what is that? You just tape yourself in front of a camera?
Yeah, you record your audition. You have a reader. I know my mom and my sister have been helping me out tremendously with that. But yeah, you self-tape, so that's how I ended up getting the role for Rhymes for Young Ghouls. But it ends up, it's kind of harder to book a self-tape because you can't actually see them in person, and you don't get any feedback from the people, or a second chance really. But I've been doing that, and it'll be good to actually meet people when I go to New York and just get my foot in the door over there. And with my nomination, it'll only really help me.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's something that's a big deal, and also showcases what you can do and things like that. I understand too that you auditioned for a pretty big movie this past summer. Do you feel comfortable talking a bit about that?
Sure. Well, I obviously can't release details about the production. I signed a non-disclosure agreement, but this past summer I auditioned for Star Wars. That was this summer when I was in LA auditioning, and I was told at first that that you didn't get the part, you didn't quite fit the character that we were looking for. And I was like, okay, fair enough. But then maybe about a month and a half, 2 months later, they were like, actually, we re-looked at the character and we learned new things about the character that we didn't know before, and we'd like to audition again. So I did a self-tape here in Montreal, and I sent it off, and J.J. Abrams really liked my tape. And so I flew down to LA again, and I got to meet with him. I met with him for almost an hour, and I auditioned with him one-on-one. So that was
That's amazing.
crazy exciting, and I
Yeah.
couldn't even believe it. I tried not to geek out on him and be too starstruck, but I didn't end up getting the role, unfortunately, but it was exciting to see that I could audition for these big productions and be on par with these other actors. It was just like, it was craziness, really.
I mean, that in itself too, again, it's something pretty amazing. And, I think when you get to a certain level in your career, does it ever like hit you where you're like, wow, I can actually do this? You know what I mean? Like, I'm actually at a certain caliber where people are taking me seriously. And
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think when it really hit me was, usually I don't like posting things on Facebook. Like, I'm kind of private in what I share, and I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but when 2013 ended, I was just like, okay, you know what, I don't even care. I'm just going to like figure out everything I accomplished this year and see how 2014 will be like, say it'll be even better. So I listed everything that I got to do this year, and I was just like, wow, I really did a lot, and it was something that made me really proud of myself. And that's the thing, is like, in the community, sometimes people think you're bragging if you do something good. But at that point, I was just like, I rarely talk about it with people, and I wanted to share it, and I felt good, and I don't know, it was something I shared, and I think that was one of the moments that I realized I was like, I can do this, and it makes me feel a little bit better about moving to New York, so I won't be, I'm not like chasing these unrealistic dreams, that there's like some possibility or potential that I could make a career out of it.
well, I mean, I'm sure that, we're just starting to see the beginning of you, and hopefully, this will be something that we'll see a lot more coming from you in the future. And
I hope so.
Do you feel that it's something that you're going to go and pursue and put all your heart and energy into?
Well, that's why I wanted to wait until I graduated to move. Like I said, I just wanted to finish my commitment so I could focus all of my energy on it. I've never been able to focus solely on acting before. I was always in school, I was always working, doing other things, but now I really get to focus on this, and I'm really excited to do that. I can't wait to see what I can do with it, and also just I have so much more to learn, and I just want to push myself and see how far I can go with this, and just I figure moving to a new city and being able to be closer to my managers and new experiences can really help me draw inspiration from when I'm acting.
Of course, and moving to a new city in one of the largest cities in the world, is that daunting for you, or are you going with family? Like, give us some details.
For me, it was either between New York and LA, because those are the two meccas of the film industry. LA is much bigger, but I didn't feel quite ready for the West Coast yet, just because I don't have as many connections out there. But I have family who are iron workers in New York, and my managers are out there, and I feel like I have more connections out there, plus it's a lot closer to home. And so I feel like that would be kind of a stepping stone. I would like to go to LA in my future, but just not quite yet. I'd like to stay on the West Coast, and I've been given advice before that if you're gonna move to LA, do it when you have a job booked already. So you're going there with a purpose, and not staying out there purposely for a long time and then just becoming a waitress or something.
Yeah, I mean, that's great advice. So you're young, you're going to be 21 years old, as we discussed earlier off camera this year, 21, and already have accomplished a lot. What would you say to other women your age, or even younger people that are looking to get into this kind of work? Kind of advice would you give?
That you have to be persistent and you can't get discouraged when you go for a while without booking anything. Like, even though for me right now I'm getting a lot of success, it's not necessarily financial success, because right now I'm just trying to get my name out there as much as possible. So it's been a lot of film festivals, it's been a lot of awards, but I haven't filmed any production since Mohawk Girls, which was last spring. So you have to have a lot of patience, and you have to at the beginning be willing to put in that extra work. And like I was saying before, it was a few years before, like there was a lull of a few years, so you can't get discouraged, and you really have to keep at it, and you really have to love it to be able to dedicate yourself to that. And for me, I feel more comfortable knowing that I have a backup plan too, that I can rely on my schooling, and I can go work at a shelter or work for social services or different things like that, be a counselor. So I can rely on that also in case that there's something eventually that can prevent me from being an actor or something like that. But I don't know. Right now I'm kind of diving in head first, and I'm really excited to see what happens.
Well, that's great, and it sounds like a good plan. So, well, congratulations once again. Is there anything else you feel is important to add?
I don't know. I think we're okay.
I think we're good. So the show is going to be airing March
9th. March 9th.
On CBC, I'm sure. Or
I'm pretty sure it's CBC, but
CBC,
I'll
probably
keep you
CTV,
tuned.
but yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a live event, and
it's out of Toronto, so you have to go, and you're going to be waiting
it's
in
gonna
the
be
audience.
it's going to be a whole week leading up to it. Like, there's a fan zone, there's nominees, reception, and then it's all leading up to the actual Canadian Screen Awards.
I know, that's so exciting.
It is so exciting.
So excited.
I'm ridiculously pumped for this.
I'm excited for you. Can you get us backstage? No, I was kidding. Well, congratulations once again, and we look forward to seeing all of your work in the future.
Thank you so much.
This program has been brought to you by Get & Go, a proud sponsor of Mohawk TV programming.